here, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you on this. Glad we could put it together in such short notice. I appreciate you coming in and everything.
That's great.
And I'm really looking forward to that. And welcome in the audience to the program. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program Dennis Horvitz, and he's the host of a program here that shows on Manhattan Network. It's called New York City Atheist Live on Tape.
That's correct.
And he's the host of that. We're going to be talking about that, the atheist movement and his own background. And Dennis, welcome very, very much for conversation.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Really pleased we could put it together. I got a pen in my right hand.
That's
but
all right.
okay, welcome very much. You've seen my program a couple times and so forth, so you'll know what I want you to do, if you will, at the beginning, just a way to wade into it, as it were. Share your own background, born and raised, a little of that, and then we'll talk about your background, and this is going to be your hour. About you, but we're going to be winding around the issue of atheism and those issues that are involved.
And my organization.
Yes,
sure.
please.
Well, I was born in Oil City, Pennsylvania.
Where?
Oil City, Pennsylvania.
Oil City, near Johnstown?
It's about an hour directly north of Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. That's near where the oil was discovered,
that's right.
I think,
Right
in
near
Pennsylvania?
Titusville.
Titusville, right
near Titusville. And but I grew up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I lived there. I was educated in Massachusetts.
What part?
New Bedford. I was lived for a couple of years in Acushnet, which is right outside of New Bedford, a small town.
What'd you study, if I may?
When I was in high school, it was basically your regular what they called at the time college preparatory.
Yes,
course.
I remember. Yeah.
It was science and languages, and and I was when I was in school, I was a history major, but I kind of decided I didn't want to go in that direction. I wanted to play rock and roll, so I was playing guitar.
You play what? Rhythm or lead or what?
Rhythm, a little mouth harp.
Okay.
Vocals. Yeah. I'm rehearsing in a band right now, actually.
Are you gigging? Do you gig?
We're still in rehearsal.
You're in rehearsal,
stage.
getting ready for prime time.
Not if prime time is lucky.
Oh, no, it's great. It's great, though.
Yeah,
Playing music is just really wonderful.
It is. And but I actually wound up in New York because I wanted to act.
Okay.
And that wasn't. I haven't formally retired from it, but I haven't really pursued that end of it that much.
Right.
Most of the performing I do is on New York City Atheist Live.
Well, that is a form of a television show and so forth like that. It is part of, like, David, or what's his name, Colbert has an hour. He said he's got a TV show. You got a TV. It's performing.
It is performing.
Yeah.
I should only get it up to that level.
Colbert.
You mean
Colbert.
Colbert.
He's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I refer to myself as the David Letterman of the Hopelessly
Damned. Of the what?
Of the Hopelessly Damned.
Okay, very good. So Madeline, what was her name?
Madeline Murray O'Hare.
God bless her.
Founded American Atheist.
God bless her, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'd be thrilled.
But so you had aspirations toward showbiz in a way, right? Or
which I can't say that I've entirely given up.
Yeah,
but,
right. Well, in a sense, you're in the media.
I'm in the media,
yeah,
sure.
It's part of
as I kind of realized that I was an atheist, I was like a lot of atheists in that, for the most part, I kind of didn't care. It was like, and what I mean by that is that it was, my whole attitude was, okay, I'm an atheist, so what? And then within the last 20 years, and more so once I got on the internet, I began to realize how much, how badly things had slipped in this country in terms of people being asleep about issues such as the separation of church and state.
Okay.
And let me just from the outset say this, that New York City Atheist, as with most, I think, atheist organizations and the organizations that with which we are affiliated, it's not really about converting people to atheism or promoting atheism. It's about promoting separation of church and state.
Thank you, Mr. Madison.
Yes,
among others.
Absolutely, which we don't feel really...
And Mr. Jefferson.
And Mr. Jefferson. We don't feel that should be strictly an atheist issue.
Yeah, right.
It's everybody's issue.
Absolutely.
And as a matter of fact, there are very religious people that are also on board with the whole idea of separation of church and state, the teaching of evolution in public school science classes, and not having religious icons and images and teachings done in our courtrooms,
or in public spaces,
or in any place, any taxpayer-funded space or organization.
Right.
And I don't think that's too much to ask. And I have to say that I was pretty naive. I didn't realize how bad it was. I mean, I thought that these things that we're grappling with right now had been settled 200 years ago, over 200 years ago.
Yeah.
So I got a kind of a slap in the face, about 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago, you say now, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of I've
right.
been an atheist most of practically all of my adult life.
Yeah.
But I didn't become really aware of how bad it wasn't really until I got on the internet. I kind of knew before. I had inklings before.
Isn't the internet great?
The internet is awesome.
It's like some sort of a miracle thing coming.
It's everybody can get on. It's truly a democratic institution.
Yeah.
It's a global democratic institution.
And what a research thing it is. And just think where it's going. It's really amazing.
I mean, a good deal of what I know now about evolution, and about and about the issues itself, or because of I was able to research it on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. You can become. There's a term. I'm not sure if you're familiar with autodidact. That's self-taught.
Yes.
I really think that the internet is just it's like a big university of the sky or something.
It most definitely is, because think about it. I mean, within the last 20 years, every single person, or most people, certainly in the West and in a good deal of Asia, the average person now has most of the information in the world at their fingertips.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty awesome thing.
Well, I wonder if that is the case. Yeah, but I think
the search, more so.
I think everything's going to get better in almost exponential terms. That's what's hard to imagine. It's coming so fast.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. But
it may be in a race with the destructive capability that's evolving on the other side of a dialectic, because the weapons are so damn destructive now beyond anything we could imagine when we were just young, even.
Well, the weapons.
You know what I mean?
The weapons, and I think also, I think the subversiveness. I think there are forces. I mean, I don't want to sound like an atheist. Like an atheist.
Well, you are
crackpot,
an
atheist crackpot.
Don't be an atheist crackpot. Be an
no, I mean
authority.
I don't want to sound like the stereotype, of which there are very few. But I think that there are anti-democratic forces in this country.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that they're trying to subvert the principle of separation of church and state.
Right.
New York City Atheists, I think we are if not one of the most active atheist free thought groups in the United States.
Interesting. When do we get back up? You were back
I'm sorry.
No, not at all. You're doing it fine. It's great and everything. But when back. Let's say, can we back up? You're in Massachusetts or something,
I was
right?
in Massachusetts.
And your family, what was the family setting? Was there discussion of things intellectual or encouraging that in the family? And then the education. You said you were at university and that, and you got into, and you said you became an atheist in your adult state. Were you something before that?
Yes, I was raised Jewish.
And when you were raised Jewish, okay.
But I began having
Orthodox, Reform.
I went to an Orthodox synagogue.
You were bar mitzvahed?
I had a bar mitzvah, and the funny thing is, and this is interesting because people I've talked to. Male Jewish atheists that I've talked to, they all seem to have started questioning around the times of their bar mitzvah.
Well, that's when you start taking on reason.
Yeah, I think maybe that's true.
To become a man, yes.
Yeah, and that may be true about everybody in any philosophical background.
Right.
So, but I was kind of on and off, and I used to joke that. I used to joke to people that until I had my first cup of coffee in the morning, I was an atheist, and after that, I was an agnostic. But
have you trademarked that? Can I use that?
I will sue you to the
okay.
your pant legs or whatever.
You'll talk to my lawyer.
Have my people talk to your people, and they can do lunch, and we can forget about it.
Yeah.
But so I began to question, but. I was kind of back and forth between an atheist and an agnostic, but I think
you did science and that in school and that.
Well, I mean, I took science courses and stuff, but actually when I got into school,
you were in history.
I was a history major for a while.
A lot of it.
And then I dropped out and
dropped out of college.
Yeah, and then I wanted to play music, and that was kind of unsuccessful. So I kind of bounced around and. But like I say, when I got into the internet, I began to really.
Yeah, I think yours is a pattern that's familiar to a whole lot of people, because I think a lot of people are in that space.
Yeah.
But they're concerned, and you're educating yourself all the while.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is the best, to my way, if I may, Dennis, I think that's the best way of learning, rather than learning what somebody says you should do, a bunch of rote things. If you're like a hound dog on the trail
and this is from a professor.
you're going after it. Yeah.
And
oh,
this
absolutely.
from a teacher.
No,
Yeah.
I'm completely against the educational system. I just think it's training people to fit into authoritarian kinds of context and listen to an authority figure and do what they're told by an authority figure. I think it sucks.
I will say this as
Formal
far as
education.
as far as you know, educating myself, is that it's a never-ending process of the tons of books that I have to constantly read all the time.
I want to tell you something. There's a lot to know.
There is a lot to know. There's a lot to know, and you know, this may be a truism, but the more you know, the more you realize, the more you need to know.
That's the beginning of wisdom. I think.
Right. You just can't know, and just, but even in like small areas, you just can't. It's really hard to kind of to keep up with things, you know. So I've got 20 books at home that I've kind of halfway through.
All must-reads, right?
All must-reads.
Another big fat tome, huh, Mr. Gibbon?
Yeah. And I've just started reading a book called The Ghost in the Universe. I'm rereading a book called The Ghost in the Universe by Tanner Edis that I started reading 4 years ago, and then I saw another book and got into that, and you know, and now I had to go back. I forgot what I read in the first place.
Tell me all about it. It sounds very familiar to me.
Being an autodidactic is it's almost a full-time job. You know?
I think that's a very important term. I really do. I think that's a very important term, because if you're teaching yourself, that's what really matters. It seems to me more than rote learning a certain list of things that somebody else thinks you ought to know. You know?
It's what I think. It's what I think.
It's a freedom. There's a freedom in the idea, and an acceptance of the idea that people can have their own head and do things. And how many irregular verbs do you remember? I don't remember any of them. All those Latin irregular verbs we had to learn in those college preparatory courses. And I had my kid come and ask me to help him share with his algebra.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. I didn't make head or tail out of it.
I flunked math in 8th grade.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? They're saying, and how much do you have to teach people? Because everybody in their own specialist think it's really important, you know, all the nuance of what they know about their specialized field, and there's a revolution coming in every damn field, and you're overwhelmed and information overloaded, and they're still cramming it down your throat how important their thing is, and you're learning to do that.
How many times have you said, wow, it's a good thing I learned how to diagram a sentence?
Yes. Right.
Woo.
Or there are people, but people differ. Some people like structure, maybe.
And that's fine. And I'm not speaking against it. I'm not speaking against it. It just happens to be the way I have acquired information. And I'm interested in. I got interested in the issues of separation of church and state.
Yeah. Young? You interested in that kind of young, or?
Well, you know, I can't say that I was when I was young.
Yeah.
Because I was, as I started to say before.
You were too busy playing guitar.
Well, it's not just that, but as with a lot of people, even a lot of atheists, I was just complacent. I had kind of no real idea how I'd been asleep like everybody else. You know, and it's the atheists are not supposed to be joiners, and I'm kind of not either, except that I got really when I found out how the separation of church and state was eroding, and how evolution was being fought against in public school, I became scared, and it jarred me right out of my complacency. So again, with New York City atheists, I think we're taking a front. We're trying to be on the cutting edge of that. I think we do. The first and foremost thing I think that the organization does, aside from doing our cable show, also on MNN, is we have these tablings on Saturday afternoon in front of the Time Warner building.
Yes, indeed. That's where I saw Ron.
Where you saw Ken. Right,
Ken, nice guy. Right.
And first and foremost, I think, is that we are there. We let other people of like minds know that we're here.
Yeah.
Because we get that a lot. People come up to us and say, I didn't even know anyone like you existed. I don't know anyone thought like
Yeah.
I did, you know.
Why don't you share with me a little bit at this good time, maybe in a segue, is the New York City atheist, when did it get started as an institution?
Well,
and that sort of thing, maybe,
from what I understand, the early history of New York City atheists, it actually maybe we mimicked the origin of life. We had several false starts. I don't know. I think there was an organization in the 60s or 70s, and that kind of dissipated, and then there was another attempt in the 80s, and that stopped. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, this guy by the name of Josh Karpf started it, and at the time it was just an informal gathering at a restaurant, and there was maybe 12 people, and I have to say I was a very bad boy initially. I kind of didn't show up
shocked.
I didn't show up most of the time, but then eventually I...
Too busy partying, huh?
Well,
Dennis?
we're not going to go into that.
Okay, we needn't go into that. Yeah, right.
But anyway, I did start showing up again, and I wound up being a guest on Atheist Viewpoint, which is put out by American Atheists.
Okay, now that's another atheist organization.
That's another atheist organization. That's like kind of like one of the main organizations.
Granddad.
It's a national
That
organization.
was O'Hare? Somebody?
That was the organization that
thing?
Madeline Murray O'Hare started.
She was like a real pioneer, I think. She was really out there and took a lot of flack,
She took a lot of flack,
Yeah.
and but anyway,
Yeah.
I was a member of American. I was and am a member of American Atheists, and I was a guest on her show, on the show with Ellen Johnson, who's the president of American Atheists.
She's in Jersey somewhere.
She's in Jersey.
I know. I had a telephone conversation with her, and Lenny Brenner. You know Lenny?
I know Lenny.
Lenny's a good dear friend of mine. He's
Yep.
a great scholar and everything
Yep,
like
I
that.
know.
We were trying to get, and she wanted to come to. She didn't know how to navigate New York. She
Right.
said she was confused by New York, but maybe on another occasion. Or
Maybe on
something.
another occasion.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
if you can send a limo.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, actually, I think maybe that's what she's thinking. I'm not in a position to be able to do that.
I
Are
don't
you?
know. I'm just kidding. I'm not.
no,
I'm not. And
yeah.
I don't think she would want that. But
Uh-huh.
so basically having.
She wouldn't want a limo to come.
I don't think that she
Maybe
would
a
expect
helicopter.
one.
Maybe a helicopter.
Well, if you're going to
You
send
could
a
land
helicopter,
right on the top of this building.
if you're going to send a helicopter, send one for me too.
Okay, would. Okay. Yeah.
So I was a guest on that show, and then she needed a co-host, and from
Yeah.
that she asked me to be her co-host.
Who did?
Ellen Johnson.
Oh, really? I didn't realize
So I'm the co-host
that.
of I'm the co-host of Atheist Viewpoint. So
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, good.
roughly about this time, Ken Bronstein was becoming very active in the group and really pushed to have us become a 501c organization.
Right.
And
Good
the whole,
idea.
the whole thing, and he and the rest and some of us felt that it was time for New York City Atheists to kind of just kick it up into second gear. You know,
Okay, good. That's really good.
And one
yeah.
of the things that we wanted to do was to have our own cable show.
Okay.
So that's kind of the rest is history as far as my cable show
Yeah,
involvement.
you
But
came to the right place with M&N. I think, don't
I
you?
sure did. And
Yeah.
I will say this: it's been a great adventure. I've interviewed Michael Newdow, who was the, the physician who originally petitioned to have Under God removed from the Pledge of Allegiance.
I remember, yeah. Whatever happened, that's all done and
well, no,
gone,
he's still going on with that. I think
right,
that particular round he lost, but because of standing, his custodial standing in the state of California.
Okay.
And the court in California said that he didn't have custodial standing. The Supreme Court generally is very reluctant to interfere on state decisions. I mean, people think that you can just get any old thing overturned by going to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme
court is a mysterious thing to me. The way the courts work
right,
is really
right.
mysterious.
Even before it was polluted with with right-wing Christians, you know.
Yeah, right.
But I guess to their credit, to some degree, they do maintain a certain amount of independence.
The rule of law is an important principle.
Yeah, it is,
but it can be subverted, and
it can be subverted, and thus far, I think we're hanging on by our fingernails right at the moment.
I agree with you. I'm very danger. Yeah.
So, anyways, so it was from my having been Ellen Johnson's co-host.
Okay.
That I kind of got the job as being the host of New York City Atheists Live on Tape.
Okay, good. When was that Live on Tape developed?
I think this summer in June I think we're going into our over 3 years now. We're going to our fourth year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's really good.
So and it's fun and use a little humor and a little irreverence like I say, we've had some really great guests on.
Okay. Maybe we could talk about the format and so forth a little bit and get a plug in, right?
Right.
Where
Well,
it's aired, when, and that sort of thing.
It
and
is
some of the people.
New York City Atheists live on tape.
Right.
Is on Manhattan Neighborhood Network on channel 67.
Okay.
At 7 o'clock on Thursdays.
7 p.m.
That's right, on Thursdays.
On Thursdays. Okay.
Followed, we also have a book club that follows right after at 7:30.
Wait, 7:30 is a separate program?
It's a separate program.
By the Atheists?
Also put on by New York City Atheists.
Okay,
Well, actually, not
so
put on by, it's on behalf of New York City Atheists. We
okay.
we actually
and
only
that's going
sponsor one
into nonfiction literature or nonfiction writing?
For the most part, I haven't been following it very closely.
Are you the host of that, or is there
no,
somebody
that's
else
another
responsible?
host. That's
somebody else responsible?
I think I can only host one show.
Does that follow on the atheist theme, or necessarily,
yeah,
or
well,
is it just all literature, or all writing?
No, it's a review of books that would generally be of interest to, to the atheist audience,
okay,
or free thought people,
or free thought,
or even atheist agnostics. For instance, they've reviewed, I believe they reviewed The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, Dawkins is something else. Yeah.
And then there's another show that also done called This Week in Atheism, which is a panel discussion. And I'm involved with that, and we have panelists who take current events and basically discuss them.
You got Hitchens at the book out. God is Not Great Now.
God is Not Great.
That's bestseller on the bestselling list.
Yes, I was actually. In fact, I was actually in the audience when he debated Sharpton.
Oh, really?
Last May. Yeah.
Where was that done?
That was at the New York Public Library.
Oh, yeah, they have good stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great, and I got an autographed copy of his books.
Yeah.
That's another. And being in my position,
yeah,
I get a lot of autographed copies of books. So
sure.
One of the perks of the job.
Because they want to. It's a thing. Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, you can use. Yeah, people want to get publicity for the book and that kind of thing.
And we were always trying to line up authors. We were going to. Hopefully, we're going to be interviewing, my next author will be Matthew Chapman, who is actually, he's actually the great-great-grandson of Charles Darwin.
Oh, really? Wow.
And he did he's a movie maker.
Okay.
And I think he's working on a film now, the name of which escapes me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Matthew, I forgot at the moment, but he wrote a book called 40 Days and 40 Nights.
Okay.
Which was his coverage of the Kitzmiller versus Dover trial in Pennsylvania.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
Okay,
but yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of it. It was a couple of years ago. The school board in Dover, Pennsylvania, wanted them to use the book of Pandas and People, which is a creationist.
I do remember that.
And book, and they want to insert their Christianity into a public school.
Who was the author
curriculum.
of that, Pandas and People? Do you happen to? Maybe you don't remember. Yeah.
I don't remember the authors.
I can remember Stephen Jay Gould wrote A Panda's Thumb or something. There was
and that was
Stephen Jay Gould was great.
I think that was kind of in reaction to that was in reaction to Stephen Jay Gould's book.
He was great. And Eldridge, he's up at the new Natural History Museum.
But I've being the host of New York City Atheists Live on Tape, I've actually got to meet and kind of hang with some of my heroes.
Yes, isn't that wonderful?
It's great.
Yeah,
it's like it's the atheist version of being backstage at a Rolling Stones concert. Because prior to my doing this, I had been. Like I said, I've been reading all these books.
Yeah, you read a lot. Right?
I try to, and I have to admit one thing. Far be it from
admit
me,
it right here, everybody. He's going to make an admission.
It has less to do with my scholastic tendencies and more to do with the fact that I can't stand to sit on the subway without anything to read.
Right.
So I'm not only autodidactic, but it's on the subway as well.
Right.
It's mass transit autodidactic.
Right. Okay. That's a special subread of New York type.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a subread of autodidactics.
Yes. Right. Well, there's an awful lot for you to read. It's hard. You got all those
never
books.
ending.
Yeah,
it's never ending.
And every day over the transom comes another revolutionary thing. Isn't it an exciting time to be alive and participant?
It's exciting. It's harrowing. It's exhilarating. It's heartrending.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
It's funny.
It's funny. I try to use a lot of humor because you got to get through it. You know, you got to laugh. You know,
you can deal with things, absurdities. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
theater, the absurd kind of
right.
thing.
So you know,
Yeah.
so basically, as an
Yeah.
organization, New York
Uh-huh.
City Atheists is, we're not out to try to convert anyone to atheism.
No, but yeah.
But if we have anything to sell, it's the separation of church and state. I
Okay.
think that's because that affects everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that
It's worldwide in its implications too. It's universal.
it should be a
seems to me.
universal right. It should be a universal right. And I think
Uh-huh.
Europe has kind of gotten it down. And I thought we had it.
Okay.
I thought we had it, but apparently I was wrong. you know.
Really, they've got the same principle in Europe in equal degree to what we've had. Because I think of
No, well, I think
of the American Revolution as having set that, and the founding fathers
Yes.
having dealt with that in an
Yes,
enlightened way.
but here's
part
the
of the Scottish Enlightenment.
Here's
I think
the
it seems.
here's
Yeah.
the irony,
Right.
though, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Is that you're right. I mean, to me, the United States Constitution is probably one of the most radical documents ever written
It
by
was,
humans.
yeah. And it was an amazing array of people put things
It's just
together.
a radical document, and I think,
Yeah.
and the irony is that now, the very part of the world that that Americans had to escape from to get that philosophy happening up and running
Yeah.
is now they're they're going to start surpassing us.
Really?
Because I think in for instance in
Well, they're ahead of us socially and economically.
yeah, it was
seems
Norway.
to
I
me,
think it was
yeah.
Norway and Sweden.
Norway's way out there, yeah.
Maybe it was. I
In
think
the
it was
progressive
Norway.
end.
Their established church asked the government to disestablish them.
That's really,
which is kind of wild.
That's really interesting.
You know,
yeah,
and in
right.
Germany,
I
all
didn't
these,
know that. Yeah.
all these places, I think, except for England, but there are several of these Scandinavian countries that had established churches that disestablished them because it wasn't working, because it wasn't doing anything for religion. And I think they're kind of more enlightened about religion in generally as a culture or as the various cultures than we are here. I mean, look at the amazing.
That's interesting.
I
I think they're more enlightened than us on economic things, don't you?
I
mean, this
You-
is,
I'm
at
gonna-
least in this neocon phase of the neoliberal thing, it's really absurd. You got 47 people with no health care and that kind of million.
Right.
People with it's absurd
Right.
the
It's a-
degrees
it
to
is-
it. And that's along a line, if I may, then it seems to me that's along a line of market fundamentalism that is fundamental as a religious doctrine in a certain sense. So in some of these secular things, it can be also asserted in a fundamentalist way of absolute truth along any line, and that's to be carefully guarded against, it would seem to me.
Right. Well, I don't know. You know,
Or, okay, just a thought.
I think the absolute of anything
Yeah, it makes my hair stand on
it's
end.
ripe for abuse.
Yeah,
you know?
right, yeah.
But I think certainly, and I don't pretend to be terribly astute about economics, but I think that the relationship between the conservative religious right and the market economy there's some kind of correlation there. Interestingly enough, though, I've read that if the takeover of the state by the church or by these people can't be all that absolute, because the very thing that they support, consumerism and the business world, that's going to grind to a halt if you get too religiously conservative in the country.
You mean along economics line?
On the economics line, you know, I
too
mean,
Friedmanite or too Chicago School or something. That great book, Naomi Klein, that's a good book if you're interested along those economic lines. I forget the name of it. It's really good. Naomi Klein. It's a great that's another big fat tome for you to read
to get buried
on the subway. Yes,
to get buried in.
But she's a real scholar along the economics lines.
You know, I've been reading. Like I said,
Gibbon. Could you pull down Gibbon maybe and read Gibbon over again, or Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, or
that would have to be light reading.
Decline and Fall. You know what I'm saying. What I'm trying to saying is you go stand in the library, and it's absurd how much there is, you know, and you have to select in a way.
I have to tell you something though. You know, the interesting thing is.
Then comes all the multimedia.
Yeah,
but a whole nother vast array of information to overload.
As long as we're talking about all these books that have to be read, it's interesting that since I've kind of formally become an atheist,
Yeah.
an atheist, I've actually learned more about religion
Uh-huh.
than I ever knew before.
Really?
And so I've
Okay.
been reading lots of books about, I read a book called The History of the End of the World by Jonathan Kirsch, which
Okay.
analyzes the Book of Revelation.
Okay, yeah, John, yeah.
And other books that, dealing with going into detail about apocryphal works in both the Old and the New Testament.
They have this Left Behind series, Lindsay or somebody, or Lindsay.
That's
yeah.
fiction, and that's not what I've delved into.
Okay, yeah. All right.
But the interesting thing that you bring that up, though, is that having read about read commentaries on the apocalyptic writings of both Judaism and Christianity, is that this Left Behind series is actually based on a misconception of the Book of Revelations.
Well, okay.
The Book of Revelation says that there are going to be 144 people who are saved.
144,000.
That's right. I'm sorry. That's correct.
Yeah.
144,000 people. Who
Oh,
are
everything's okay. 144,000. Only 144, we'd be in trouble.
But
yes,
they're all going to be Jews who have accepted Christ.
yeah, they have to at the last minute.
And they're all going to be male.
Yeah, all male.
Yes.
There's a problem about reproduction. Then,
yeah. Well, of course, once you're saved, you don't need to reproduce.
Oh,
you know
I see.
I mean?
Okay, yeah. Well,
What
the
point I'm making is that all these people that place all this stock in this apocalyptic vision and if not the actual if they don't believe in the Left Behind series, which is really a book of fiction, with their authors a bit
very influential, though.
Very influential. Yeah. But most of the people that think they're going to be saved are not going to be saved. Yeah,
it was all 144. They can't even
and
get
they're
that on Noah's.
They're going to be all converted
Jewish. All
going to be converted Jewish males, and that's
so that cuts out a lot of people.
That cuts out most people.
No hope for me. I'm an Episcopalian. No hope, right? Sorry. Well, that's the way they dealt the dice.
You're going to join us in hell.
Okay, right.
But when I'm told that I'm going to hell, I always say yes, but I'll be on the staff.
Mm-hmm. You'll be on the staff,
as
right?
As an atheist, sure.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
But if I could just kind of go back to the church and state thing.
Yeah, because that's what you're mainly concerned with.
Yeah,
so am I. Yeah.
First, of course, letting other like-minded people know that we exist as an organization.
Yeah.
But equal is our message is separation of church and state. Mm-hmm. And I think that part of the reason that wall of separation is under great threat is not because most religious people or believers are trying to smash it down. It's that they're kind of like the whole idea of prayer in school and under God and the pledge and that kind of thing. It's warm and fuzzy and gives them a feeling of security and reassurance without their having to kind of examine what it really means. And for the most part, I think if the dominionists, and those are the ones who are actually spearheading the movement to actually break down the wall of separation, who are claiming that there was no such thing, that it's a modern concept.
The which people?
They're called dominionists.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
No, well, not many people are, but they're kind of the core group in this right-wing Christian evangelist movement. They're a very small part of the evangelist movement, actually.
But they're a very large base of Mr. Bush's support, about 40%.
Yeah.
Mr. Bush's,
right.
For whatever that's worth.
And that includes
percentage.
But my point here is
they're in the downturn now, I think. But anyway, go ahead.
From your mouth to the vast, infinite, uncaring, indifferent voids here.
Okay. Thank you. You're in that vineyard all the time.
I'm in that vineyard all the time.
Yeah, right. Mm.
So, but I think people who think that this, we're a Christian nation, or we should have prayer, or don't think or who don't believe that we should remove under God from the Pledge of Allegiance. I think, like I said, they have this. It's sentimental, and they get a warm and fuzzy feeling about it. But if the dominionists are allowed to take over and turn this into a Christian nation, chances are that 90% of the people who consider them Christian are going to find that they're not Christian enough.
The dominionists want to turn us into a Christian nation?
I think the dominionists, yeah. Now, I don't say. Let me just say this.
I think they're going to turn New York City into a whole Christian city. What are they going to do with all the Jews? They're not going to be the Jews.
I think New York will probably want.
I don't think that's going to work.
I think New York is going to
I don't think that's going to work. There's certain parts of the Bronx I wouldn't want to go with
no,
placards.
And I think New York
And
may
in
have
fact,
to,
Manhattan, Upper West Side Manhattan,
Manhattan may have
to
to become a Republic of Manhattan.
maybe.
I'm
Yeah,
just kidding,
right,
folks.
right. Yeah,
We're just speculating here. I don't really believe it.
Manhattan would be the last to
No,
go.
but you know,
Yeah.
the Dominionists, the hardcore
Yeah.
Christian
Okay, I've
right.
not heard that term, but I appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
But they're actually a very small minority,
Okay.
even of the evangelistic community. Just to give you another perspective, actually, we in our July meeting, we had a presentation by Dr. Randall Balmer, who is who was a professor of religion at Barnard.
Okay.
He's an Episcopalian priest. He's an evangelist, but he's very pro separation of church and state.
Right.
He's very pro teaching evolution in public school science classes.
Yeah, I don't understand how somebody can be against it, really. I mean, it seems so absurd
Well,
to me.
well, as I said earlier, I was so naive. I thought this thing had been settled 200 years ago.
At least Scopes trial or Darwin or I mean...
Well, and it was further reaffirmed in the Supreme
Clarence
Court
Darrow,
decision in
bless him.
1947 about the whole reciting the Pledge of Allegiance with "under God" in it. I think it was Jehovah's Witness family that went before the Supreme Court, and it was ruled that they couldn't be forced to say "under God" or even recite the Pledge of Allegiance. You don't have to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. It's pure.
You mean if you're in school and they're doing it, you can refuse to do it?
You can refuse to do it. Yeah. And
it takes a lot of guts to refuse to do it when there's a lot of peer pressure being put on you to do it.
There was a girl,
and then you've got all of the sanctimoniousness of the people who think they've got that truth. That's always a problem when you've got a minority of people who differ.
There was a girl
with them
there was a girl in Massachusetts about it must be 10 years ago now, who refused to not only say the Pledge of Allegiance, she refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And she was persecuted. There was getting hate mail, death threats. She happened to be Jewish, and she was also getting anti-Semitic threats and that kind of thing. So it does happen, and it's going on right now. It's going on, certain parts of the South, but even in I think it was Ohio or somewhat of the northern states.
Yeah, Ohio. There was a push to get what do you call it? Intelligent design.
Yes, that's
as
but
a
that's
cover for creationism
that's
in the minds of some. They say that
is creationism.
They try to make Behe and Demensky, and that they try to make a different case for intelligent design.
Yeah, well,
did you see the thing in the New York Times? They had it 2 weeks running, which is a big centerfold in the Week in Review, the section of the Week in Review. They had a big centerfold thing in the Week in Review, and they ran it 2 weeks. 1 week, and it was, the question was, is there a design or purpose in universe? And they had great minds. The fellow who runs the museum, what's his name, Tyson DeGrasso, other people. They had all these intellectuals and so forth. And it came down about equally on the people who thought there was design, or there was intelligence, or purpose. They had all those lines worked together. And I want to kind of deal with you, if you'd ask to look at that. And it was about equal to the number of people who said, maybe, not sure, yes, no. Some people said absolutely not, and absolutely yes, there is.
That doesn't surprise me.
And there was this distinct, they were calling that as a large question that's before us. Is there some sort of a design? And if it isn't a religious kind of template that you're going to put on that, does that mean, where does it stand in terms of, is there some purpose to existence or some purpose to human existence, and how do people deal with the existential need or the seeming need of this level of consciousness to have some sort of an understanding of what the hell it's all about?
I'm sure any answer I give would only make the question more complicated.
Okay.
But I'll try.
Please, we're all here. We're waiting for the word.
I'll try. And I certainly don't claim to have the answer.
Yeah. I'm shocked.
Let me just. It is so unlike me.
Yes.
First of all, just to separate the philosophical question from the question of teaching intelligent design in public schools, that is out of the question as far as I'm concerned. It should not be done. Having said that, philosophically, people are free to believe whatever they want to believe. I don't happen to believe that there's a purpose, an external purpose to the universe. I don't think that there's an external meaning of life that's waiting for us to go out there and find it. Doesn't mean that life can't be meaningful. It doesn't mean that people can't have a purpose. But I don't believe that. But on the physical level, I don't believe that evolution is purpose-driven. It's just something that occurs.
It's all chance and necessity.
Yeah, it's randomness. It's randomness. It's an algorithm.
But
really.
can that be? If you do, like Fuller's a hero of mine, Buckminster Fuller.
Fuller,
he used to believe in synergy. Synergy behavior systems unpredicted by the sum of the parts, and he always left it open to a priori mystery, because there's a mystery that is not known in terms of state. 4 million years ago, we were contained in the Australopithecine line, and then came Homo habilis.
And almost didn't happen in any case.
Yeah, and it was it's amazing that anything exists. First of all, it was so unlikely that there could be a planet where there would be anything like even a formation of anything.
But isn't that the ultimate existential question?
Well, yeah.
Why does anything exist?
Yeah, right.
Anything exists.
Right.
This planet.
That's what I'm wondering every day.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we've only got about.
I believe that with a religious intensity, you know.
Well, and I'm afraid we have to solve it in the next 10 minutes. So
we only got 10 minutes.
No, I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, no, we actually got 18.
18
okay,
minutes.
18. Oh, we got lots of time
to solve.
Because we got the problems of the world to deal with.
Yeah, we can solve the problems of the universe.
But that's a question, and then the thing is that's a question that's there, and he said it's a behavior system. But so there's something, and it was synergy. The behavior system is unpredicted by the sum of the parts. So in that sense, anything, there will be another revelation of something, and there are no fundamentals. And when you get down to it, there's nothing in the universe but resonancy between systems. String theory seems to say that, and so forth. So anything fundamentalist, like saying there is not, but the idea of there saying absolutely there's no design as a fundamental principle is rather like saying absolutely there is a design, and it seems to me that you can't say either.
Let me just say this: as far as I'm concerned,
I mean, you can get a religious commitment to a non-religious notion of the universe.
I think that's
you know what I'm saying?
That tends towards a false dichotomy.
Maybe, yeah.
Because first of all, I think that atheism is simply, at its very basis is the lack of belief in a god or gods.
Okay.
They have what they call
fundamentalist principles.
They have strong.
Truth,
they have. I can't prove there's no God, but I don't need to. And I can't. It can't be demonstrated to me that there is any way to know that existence
has purpose.
Has purpose, or is and must necessarily be the result of a decision.
Is there any way to know that existence does not have purpose? That's what that ad or that thing was doing. You see, anything say absolutely there's no purpose.
Oh, I don't think that
to the process.
Oh, well, I don't think that existence has a purpose. I think
you don't
think. In terms of I guess maybe I'm flattering myself by calling this the Aristotelian approach.
All right. Yeah.
But as Aristotle said, whatever is. But I don't think that there's no way to show that we are here because of as a result of subjectivity of something else, of someone else.
Okay.
And there's no way of knowing that.
Okay.
How can you know that we wouldn't be here unless somebody decided that we're here?
Oh, I'm not sure it's exactly the same. How about if through ethics or something we come and formulate a purpose?
Well, that's
different.
That's a different story.
That's
a necessity if humanity wants to survive.
I agree with you on that, and it's getting very, very hairy because we have the weapons to destroy this whole hominoid line.
Right.
Do you think that's the true fact that exists now? The weapon systems, if they were to be unleashed, would mean the end of the hominoid line? Or is it that far developed?
I think that the potential exists, absolutely.
No, no, not the potential like special theory of relativity 1905. But the development of the systems that are in place, if they were to be unleashed, would apparently, it's only modeling, of course, would mean you used to be able to destroy the tribe in the other valley, and you could destroy the other nation and then steal the grain and win and everything like that. But that if there was to be an unleashing, like say the Second World War, we were trying to kill each other as best we possibly could. If they were to be unleashed apparently from modeling, Kaku and others say this, that it would mean, without a doubt, they say, the end of the whole hominoid line and this line of
I think that's a very real possibility.
didn't have that. We were impotent in that sense of that power at as recently as the Second World War.
I think that if we were to have
Something major's gone on and changed the formula in terms of
if we were to have a
things
conflict,
where it gets undone. Where
yeah,
it gets
yeah.
unleashed.
If we were to have a conflict,
Say
even a quarter of the size of World War II.
No, quarter of the size. Yeah, well, all out.
All out.
But we were impotent then. We had a tank. We didn't have an
Right.
atomic bomb.
No, I think
you know what I'm saying?
I think
Something's happened between the Second World War.
I think total
something
destruction.
happened unusual on the
Yes.
way from the Second World War to now.
Yeah, I think
It's
total.
existentially significant.
I think we could wind up being the best thing that ever happened to cockroaches.
Yeah.
You know,
Or we
'cause
could.
they're going to be here after we're gone.
Well, the
you know.
second law says that all systems, closed systems, move toward entropy to the limits of the system.
Right.
And so we may join entropy. We may be meant to join entropy. That's the hell of it. We may be meant to join entropy in terms of a broader pattern of the evolution of events in this part of the universe.
Well, I think that we.
That would be the ultimate
But I think
joke.
the second law is basically self-explanatory.
Yeah.
We're moving toward entropy anyway.
Well, yeah.
And where I would differ with the wording is the word meant. It's just that we are. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Okay.
I say we're moving toward entropy, and evolution occurs, and all these other things occur. Because of the configuration.
That's the structure of the universe.
That's the structure of the universe.
Yeah, second law.
Yeah, that's the structure of the universe.
Yeah, right.
We are what we are because it's not possible to be anything other than what we are.
Fuller used to take another measure of that in a certain sense. If I may, I'd admire Fuller and Chardin also.
Right.
Where they were trying to deal with
Fuller was a big fan of vitamin C too, wasn't he?
Well, he was, and also Linus Pauling was, and everything.
Yes.
Fuller was an amazing mind, but he used to cast about. He would talk.
I'm sorry,
it was really
maybe it was
interesting.
Linus Pauling.
Yeah, Linus Pauling was. Yeah, but he had this thing, and he said. So we have the second law of thermodynamics, and he said he cast about. He was a I loved him. He was like a poet, beautiful guy, really smart, best mind in the history of mankind, perhaps, in my mind of thinking. But he said, so he cast about looking for a countervailing force or a countervailing function in the universe, and he posited, in a sense, the biological process itself, the evolutionary process of consciousness and so on, he used to talk about synergy, the behavioral systems unpredicted by the sum of the parts. He said it was a countervailing, he said he called it a syntropic, an anti-entropic, a synergistic anti-entropic function in the universe, the biological process that moved across entropy and brought increased patterns of conscious understanding of the process of which we are a part, and that he very definitely felt that the whole biological process had a purpose, and got a sense of purpose of moving across entropy and bringing a conscious pattern of understanding to that process. That doesn't resonate in any kind of a way with you in terms of having any meaning. You don't buy it. So there is no purpose.
There is no.
Now, if there is no
purpose,
there's no purpose such as that. That would be, and he left it open.
Yeah.
He would have to leave it open. He couldn't say there's absolutely no purpose or anything that could, but he left that open as a synergistic possibility by which you get a sense of what the heck it's all about. And it may be like we're coming to a time of being able, we're going to take the picture. Listen to me, Dennis. They're going to take a picture of the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago. They got one now 200,000 years after Big Bang, 13.7 billion years ago only. They're going to take a picture, 2011, they're going to take a picture within less than a second of the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago.
Right.
As a singularity that started this universe, there may be parallel universes, but we're really taking the measure of things in a large way.
Right.
And is there any way on the side of that we may be what we've been for 200,000 years as a species is about to be transcended in an evolutionary punctuated equilibrium way? We're going to come into a new relationship to the universe.
That might very well be possible.
Yeah.
But that. I don't think that if it happens, it will be because it was meant to happen. It will just be because it happens for a variety of reasons.
You don't think we have any? He said it's going to be touch and go right up to the final moment whether we're going to make it.
And he may be right.
Yeah.
But I don't assign any extra human purpose to any of that. He may be absolutely right. There may be a Superman, 1,000 years from now that makes us,
Not 1,000 years. It is. We're in the moment of realizing that now. We're closing quotes on 200,000 years. We're in evolution, like Stephen Jay Gould. We believe in evolution. Evolution comes quantitative change, and and Eldridge, it's punctuated equilibrium
as opposed to gradualism.
Yeah,
right.
It happens at once. And it's like 9 months of a pregnancy.
Yes.
And we're coming to the end of 200,000 years of
it might very well be.
And we can blow up the whole species now. And we have a capability that all this technology, that's extended consciousness. And we have a capability of perhaps liberating humanity from, let's say, the ancient scourges plus all the injustices.
We have all of those.
All of those things. Now, how do we wrap all that up in some sort of a ball that gives, and yet deny that there's any purpose? That would be a sense of purpose of our being in universe.
Whatever
is still within a secular context.
Whatever we do has a purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
That if we become better human beings, it's because we want to, or we have the ability to. But if there's some kind of physical thing that happens, anyway, it's not. In other words, anything that doesn't occur outside of our doing, it just happens. And we may have a perspective on it, and if this event happens within the next year or 2 years from now, we may have a perspective on how we are then as opposed to how we are now. But that's just our perspective. I think the universe is indifferent to interpretation.
You think so?
Yes, I think it's up to, we either get it right or we don't, and if we don't, too bad, or we keep trying until we get it right, that kind of thing. I don't see that there's. I think people misunderstand biological trends or societal trends. And think that that's because of a higher purpose. I don't think that is
a higher purpose.
Because if
it doesn't have to be a higher purpose. Suppose it's a purpose.
Well,
it's a purpose. It's not a higher purpose.
Then it's our purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not putting down.
It would be better for us to liberate everybody. Let's just say we're on the verge of liberation, and we're in a system that is a slave system in terms of a few people own everything. We got a few people in the hill and everything, and we're going to have a liberated context where everybody can realize their full potential. That's something worthwhile. That may be the averse side to the destructive scenario that is also inherent in the situation in which we find ourselves.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. What I'm saying is,
we're not indifferent to that outcome.
We are not indifferent to that outcome.
Right.
Absolutely.
Definitely, and we should keep separation of church and state in order to help let that open on that.
We have a better chance of affecting that.
What about, if I could, what about if you say the church and state? The church has this idea like it's an ontology or an understanding of absolute reality, and these spiritual traditions go out to include all of you. They're legends that we had to live with throughout 200,000 years of trying to figure out. We had this consciousness. What is it all about, Alfie? We're trying to figure out. We have these legends we inherited and everything. They have all of that. What about the idea of this thing I mentioned before, that there should be a separation of church and state, you say? Maybe there should be a separation of economics and state. Maybe there should be that the economic fundamentalism now, which is so in the saddle and so forth, and that everything is along those lines, is perhaps more destructive with that fundamental sense of some sort of an idea that is going to serve Do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe it's apocryphal.
I don't know.
But you should separate any fundamentalist notion from the importance of the way the society is going to be organized. Religion is one fundamentalist thing that can get you in trouble because you think it's absolute, and you get these economic whether now you've got Friedman and you got free market economics and this kind of thing as something, but it's having more devastating effect upon the human condition and maybe leading to that destruction. They should be economics is too important to be left up to the economists.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
Because that sets the tone for all of our institutions,
Let me just avoid that by saying...
Okay. Just a thought. Just a thought that occurred to me now. I never thought of it until this moment.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
So it's untested.
I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be here at the moment of this great revelation of yours. But I'm not an absolutist, anyway. So.
But isn't atheism inherently absolutist? because you're taking a position to say it is absolutely sure that there is no purpose.
And
if you're anywhere this side of that, you're beginning to flirt with agnosticism.
Well, I think
or synergy.
Agnosticism is the process.
Okay.
Agnostics basically said what I said before, or I said what they said. What I said, I was just repeating what they said, is that it's just not knowable if there's a God.
Well, that's synergy.
Yeah, well...
synergy, the behavior system, unpredicted by the sum of the parts.
And I think
when you leave the womb, there's something there that you don't know from inside the womb what that is.
Right.
It's
we have a saying, atheism is not a belief, it's conclusion.
Okay, yeah, talk.
So if agnosticism is the process by which, well, you can't show me that it's just what you're... the existence of God is not knowable. So an atheist would say, so therefore why even bother to, why even consider it?
Right.
And true, there are what they call hard atheists and soft atheists, and
there is.
Yeah.
This is a distinction I haven't heard.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about the difference between a hard atheist and a soft atheist.
A hard atheist would be someone who says, well, there is no God. And
they used to have things called deists. A lot of
deists,
they were like Washington.
Deists said deists are like
watchmaker.
God created the universe and just let it go.
Right, and that was Washington, Jefferson. I
think Jefferson,
Madison.
Maybe I'm not sure about Madison.
Yeah,
but I know Jefferson.
Yeah. Madison was very good for
Washington was kind of, I think Franklin was a...
Franklin, yeah. But it was important. It was coming out of the Scottish Enlightenment too,
Yeah. So, but a soft atheist is someone who says, well, I just don't think there's enough there's no evidence for it, so therefore I don't bother to believe it.
Yeah, right.
So I myself am a very... I wouldn't call myself a fundamentalist atheist. I would call myself a minimalist.
Okay, we got soft atheists, strong atheists. We got minimalists.
Well, I would be
minimalist. We begin to talk art talk now.
I would be more.
The painted word.
I'm just using that to describe myself.
Right.
Meaning, whatever what is it? Occam's razor. The simplest explanation. So, as far as I'm concerned, atheism is the lack of belief in a God or gods. Pragmatically, I would say there's no God. But if you're going to pin me down philosophically, I don't think there's any reason to believe.
And one thing we know for sure, we do not want to have some sort of a church and state coefficient coming together in the kind of way that it did and has harassed us throughout all of history. And thank you and all of your associates for keeping a mind on that issue, because it's a very important one.
And we invite people to join us on. We don't want to be alone on this. We want people, whether you have a religion or not, separation of church and state is very important. And you can contact New York City Atheists.
And they will, and thanks. I'm sorry we run out of time.
That's okay.
We just got started.
I know.
We got about 20 hours to go.
Well, you'll have to have me back.
Well, we'll have to keep in touch with one another. And thanks a lot for the program.
Thank you for having me.
Just some thoughts and everything like that. Thanks for viewing. We invite you to tune in. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. And it's been our pleasure to present Dennis Horvitz, and he is the host of New York City Atheists Live on Tape. And it's a program, another great program in the lineup of great programming is coming up increasingly on the Manhattan Network and Public Access.
Absolutely.
And you heard it here first. And thanks a lot for all your work in such a very well-led life.
Thank
you. Let me know when you gig at a saloon. I'd like to come out and hear you.
I certainly will.
Your pleasure. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
So anyway, thanks. It goes on and on.